Welcome back to 843 TV. We're now joined by Gina Zuberbier, who's a teacher here at the Lowcountry Montessori School. Gina, thanks for joining us today.
Of course.
And so you kind of specialize in the language arts, is that right?
Correct, I do.
What are some of the language offerings here at Lowcountry Montessori School?
Well, at the school, through our specialist program, we offer Spanish and French. Spanish for the middle schoolers, and French is an option for the high schoolers.
Okay.
And then my specialty is English language arts, so your more run-of-the-mill English classes.
And does that include literature, like composition and literature and that kind of thing?
It does. We, throughout the year, we will run the gamut from poetry to persuasive essay writing to literary essay, all of those genres of writing that are so important for people to be able to use to communicate effectively. Absolutely.
And you know, I think that foreign language is becoming more and more important in our lives, and it seems like that this kind of community approach of you know, that Montessori brings would be beneficial to the foreign language, because you get to foster communication and conversation in that language between the peers. Is that right? Did you see a lot of that?
Absolutely. One of our emphasis, the things we emphasize is the idea of a global community. And so when we embrace the culture and the language of other countries, it not only brings that to our students, but it allows them to really get a glimpse into what other places in our world look like. Yeah, absolutely. You know, one of the things I wanted to ask is, like, when I was in high school, I did not go to a Montessori high school. Test day was like super nerve-wracking for me. You know, like a math test or a chemistry test or something. Do you all have tests as part of your program? We have assessments.
Okay.
We work in cycles in the secondary program, specifically in middle school. So we look at a theme, and then at the end of 5 or 6 weeks, we have what we call our assessment week, and that's where all of our testing, for lack of a better term, happens. But it's not so much a test as in, you know, I'm going to ask you all of these questions and you have to give me all of the right answers and regurgitate all of the dates.
Right.
It's more of a show me what you've learned. And we're working toward what we call mastery, which is an ability to score 80% or better on these assessments.
So it sounds like the testing is a little different than the traditional paper standardized testings. Those aren't part of what you all do here, is that correct?
In our day-to-day offerings, a lot of what we do is that demonstration of knowledge.
Okay.
So through projects and project-based learning, we do a lot of that demonstration. And there are things that you just have to put on paper and ask questions and ask for a written response. But it's not the same kind of rote.
It's not a
memory.
finite answer usually. Some things are, but there's a lot of open-endedness to the questions, because we're trying to see if they can creatively, you know, use what they've learned to come up with something else. So it's not, like Gina was saying, it's not a memorized answer usually. And some kids will try to do that, and that's when you have to help them push a little bit beyond the box that they're normally used to being in.
Speaking of that creative learning that they have and hands-on, we have some neat materials behind us that they use in lower school. How did those transfer to the upper grades?
So in the upper grades, we're really looking for abstraction, the ability for our students to take these materials that they've worked with since they were 3 years old and take them to the formulas in math, and for one example is the Trinomial Cube, which in the lower grades is a puzzle.
And that's that box right behind
you.
And that's
this one right here. And when they're little, they take it out of the box, and the goal is to put it back into the box and make it all fit, and everything is in its place. In secondary, there's a whole other level to that particular material, which Rhonda knows much more about.
In the mathematics, it's really more algebra-based, and it just helps them to visualize what they had as little child in the lower grades, and how they can use it now in the upper grades to come up with a formula for the trinomial cube. And they like, oh, well, this hits this and goes with that. And when they see letters, they now have something visual to put together. You know, A squared and AB and C and all that just sounds crazy until you have something visual, concrete, to go with that abstract thought.
Right, and it really puts their learning into action.
Yes.
Rather than it just kind of being a concept that you need to
Right.
memorize.
Right.
Well, this is very interesting stuff. We would love to have one more segment with you all if you're available. So stick around for one more segment of 843 TV from Lowcountry Montessori School.